Oh, hey, Alice. Fancy seeing you here. You walked in at a good time. We got Molly from Omenbringer here tonight. And Neef is here as well. So it is a momentous occasion. My Coven comes out tomorrow.
Friday.
And
Right.
yeah, I think this will be going up the day before. So that should be coming up tomorrow and or this Friday, either way. And then you can also catch Omenbringer at East Room February 10th. So very exciting things, 2023 is going to be a big year, I think, for a lot of reasons. It sounds like Omenbringer is bringing the heat.
Oh, yes, big time.
Cool. It seems like you guys got a lot of traction. Like you just started with a lot of momentum and you're just building on it. Like you're just like, I don't know, like a torpedo.
Yeah, like a rocket ship.
Yeah.
We haven't even been fully formed as a band for a year yet. So we played our first show last May of 2022, and it's currently January of 2023. So we've really only been together for 8 or 9 months. Seems like longer, but it's exciting stuff.
And in that time, you released a music video. You've had several songs. Like you're making moves for sure. What first? Do you remember when you first awakened your abilities?
My witch abilities or my
Yeah.
musical abilities? Well,
I guess they're both the same thing sometimes.
sometimes. I've basically been a witch since I was a young child. I started getting really into magic and witchcraft as a young child. I would sneak out of my bedroom and do spells under the moonlight as like a 10, 11, 12-year-old, I had girlfriends that we would sleep over and we would do spells and witchcraft, love spells usually on poor unsuspecting boys. And I've been in music ever since I could be in music. It's always been in my heart and in my family and in my life.
Besides singing, what kind of instrument did you like first pick up when you were a kid?
So my mom bought me a piano when I was young, and I was terrible at it because I played completely by ear. So every week the piano teacher would play the song that I was supposed to learn for the lesson, and I would just remember how it went and play it again and not really learn anything. So for years I kind of fudged my way through that. And then I played guitar a little bit in high school, but I was pretty bad at it. So yeah, I've always kind of just stuck to singing because I can't really play and sing at the same time. But I do so much when I'm singing, I couldn't play an instrument at the same time anyway. So it works out just fine.
Yeah, that works out. My mom played piano and we had a piano growing up and she tried to teach me. She was really good. Um, she is really good. But I just never like got the discipline to like sit down and do it. I guess I grew up with like video games, so that this wasn't as appealing.
When you were learning to play guitar or piano, did you pick up any of the music theory behind?
Well, I picked up all my music theory from choir class.
Okay.
So I had a really influential choir teacher in high school who really believed in me and made me the lead in the play. It was like a musical that I was in, and I had a lot of dialogue and a lot of songs. And he encouraged me to try out for the All-State Choir, which was like the statewide choir that you have to audition to get into. And I was in it every year in high school. So that taught me a lot of music theory and not really how to read music, but kind of how to fudge my way through that as well. So
right, well, chart reading is kind of, I mean, it's its own thing. You kind of default learn it, but then forget it because nobody really uses it. But yeah, I was asking mainly because with singers, a lot of times it can easily be missed because a lot of people can just learn. They can be trained to sing without, I mean, a lot of instruments can be done that way too. But with singers in particular, I don't run into a lot of people that focus mainly on singing that have a lot of traditional music training behind that.
yeah, and it should really be thought of that way because your voice is an instrument. and you need to practice correctly in order to not play incorrectly or sing incorrectly. So there is a lot of theory behind it, and you should have correct technique or you're not going to make it through a whole set. So I've had a lot of practice with playing and performing live, but a new thing to me that really, kicks it up a notch for all performers is dancing while you're performing. So learning your proper breath control is always really important, because if you're going to put all this, performance into your acting and your singing and all and your, show, then you're not going to make it if you're going to run out of breath because you're doing too much with your body. So it's just something that you have to be really self-aware about.
Yeah. And you're very much a showman as well. You don't just sing, you put on a show. If you're not familiar, Alice, Omenbringer really, it's a spectacle to behold. You're very, it's the whole thing is just very bewitching.
Oh, thank you very much. What a nice compliment.
You put them under your spell.
I do. It's absolutely 100% my intent that people leave the show like blown away, and feeling like they got more than music out of it, that it was like a performance.
Yeah. Do you have any fun ghost stories?
Yes, I do. I don't have a lot of like personal ghost stories, but I lived in a house when I lived in Knoxville. I went to college at UT, and I lived in this old house that was apparently a makeshift hospital during the Civil War, which is creepy. So there was a lot of blood stains on the wood floors, and there was this little tiny window that was not accessible in any apartment in the house. It was a house chopped into apartments, and the little tiny window had a little tiny handprint in the window that was very creepy. And I remember very distinctly one time I came home and I looked up in that little window, and there was a little bitty, like a little girl face and her hand on the window, and then she was gone. And it was very creepy. And then that
Wow.
same apartment, similarly, I had a giant mantle, like what's behind me, like a fireplace with a big mantle that was very wide. And I had knickknacks on the mantle. And in the middle of the night, one of the vases on the mantle went flying across the room and shattered on the ground and woke me up and scared me to death. And there was no way that it could have just like knocked off and been 5 feet across the room. It was very weird and creepy.
Yeah, that is creepy. What do you think about, like, okay, so that's what we could call like interdimensional aliens, like things from another plane, or at least present in another plane, I guess. And so what do you think about like extraterrestrial aliens, like outer space? Do you think they've been in contact with people?
I think that they're out there, but if they are that intelligent to where they know about us, then they probably know to stay the hell away from us. It's probably like the Star Trek thing where we're not advanced enough for them to talk to us yet, kind of thing.
Yeah. So the difference with spirits would be that we have something to offer them,
I think
because they would be really advanced too, right?
well, to me, a spirit could be a lingering energy. I feel like a lot of times there's like unfinished business that maybe
Yeah.
keeps people's spirits or things, energy like that lingering on in a place, or perhaps something really terrible or really unusual happened there. And that energy just remains. So to me, it's not so much like they're on another, that they're definitely on this other plane. And I feel like with spirits, it's more like they're trapped there, or they are, they need to finish their business here before they can move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Like probably not all there's a wide range when it comes to spirits. It's like you have like those kind of lingering presences, and then you have like higher sources, and it's like, yeah, I wonder when it comes to those kind of things, like the gods and the demons, like sort of the higher up in the hierarchy. What do you think their appeal is to interact with people? Because I have some personal experiences, I'm sure you do too. And I guess what do you think? Because you made a really good point earlier about aliens. What if they could get here, why would they fuck with us? So I guess and I don't expect you to have any answers. I'm just trying to figure it out myself. But what do you think? What do you think it is about spirit creatures that find us appealing?
Well, perhaps then they sense when we are open to them. And that's when they want to tap into us and use us to finish their business or use us to communicate their wishes or their will, And when we open ourselves to the unusual and the seemingly impossible, sometimes really interesting things happen. So I kind of think it's kind of a give and take kind of situation. Like they're getting from us, so they're giving back to us kind of a thing.
Yeah, and I guess so the compensation would be energy, kind of like
Sure.
what you're putting out.
Yes, and this relates to something interesting that you might enjoy talking about. Like they probably sense a lot of energy and fear. So if you go into a place that's haunted, like people that are susceptible to that, they probably have fear and a heightened energy, and therefore the spirit is feeding off that. But I do something that probably some Satanists that listen to this podcast are interested in and do themselves, because I identify as a Satanist. I do sex magic. They talk about this in the Satanic Bible, that there's this misconception that you need to sacrifice a baby or a virgin to, have a satanic ritual, which is silly. And the Satanic Bible talks about how you can have the exact same amount, if not more, energy from an orgasm. And so I use the time when I'm having sex with myself or with my partner to manifest my wishes. So you're putting out a lot of energy in that very moment. It's very difficult to focus your brain in that moment of pleasure and heightened sense to focus on something else, and then still come. But I highly recommend you try it because it's working wonders for me. Me and Satan are really tight. He laps up my cum every time. He loves it. So she loves it. Whatever Satan entity is to you, God is to you, they love it.
It sounds very similar to Tantra.
I don't know anything about Tantra, but I would love to learn more about that.
I have a Satan story as well. But before I get to that, as a Satanist, what does that mean to you? Because there's like multiple kinds, and I guess what is that to Molly?
To me, Satan, is the same definition that it is in the Satanic Bible. Satan is the self. You worship the self. You appease the self. I like to think of Satan as a real physical being because I just like that. I've always been really attracted to satanic imagery, demon imagery. When I was like 3 or 4 years old, it's the first time I saw Fantasia and Chernabog, the demon, at the end of the Fantasia film with the song Night on Bald Mountain behind it. That was like really influential to me. I thought the demon was very sexy because he's like all ripped and strong and dark and he was scary. And I really identified with that. And every time I would see like Satan on imagery, like tattoo flash and things like that, I just thought it was really cool. Especially an image of like a red devil that's kind of handsome, So I think a lot of Satanists are purely Satanists because they enjoy trolling the Christians, which don't we all, because they are fun to poke fun at. But for me, it's more about like do no harm, but take no shit kind of thing. And I'm out there to make the most out of my life and get the absolute most enjoyment and joy out of my life. Because we're here to have pleasure and enjoy ourselves and have a good time. So I'm out there to not only give it to myself, but give it to others, especially through performance, through Omenbringer. I want people to feel sinfully pleasured after they see our show.
That's a very eloquently good way to put that.
Well, thank you, Alex.
Or I guess a very eloquent way would have been a very eloquent way to say what I said. But
it's got a probably contrary to what the layman would perceive, it actually has a very pure appeal to it.
Mm. Yeah.
A lot of our songs are about pleasure and the pleasure of friendship, the pleasure of sex, the pleasure of loving yourself, which I feel is a really important message that people have been latching onto in the last like decade. There's been this like big push, like with artists like Lizzo and like who are just vehemently and adamantly going after people who attack them and like saying, no, I love myself. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care if you don't like what I look like, what I believe, what I do. I like it. And that's why I'm putting it out there. And that's the same thing with Omenbringer. Like I'm doing everything is from a place of love and enjoyment and putting it out there because I enjoy it and I believe in it.
There's such a power in raw honesty and vulnerability, because like no one can attack you. You're completely exposed and you're unafraid, and that's a really uncomfortable thing for people that aren't that way, you know. There's a beautiful quote I like. I can't remember who said it now. Art comforts the disturbed and disturbs the comfortable, and that's
Good art.
yeah, yeah. I think and it can be in like a very underestimate, or I guess underappreciated thing sometimes, but it's like one of, if not the most important thing people can do is put value into to paint the world, you know, in a beautiful way. To paint our piece of time here together is like such a gift, and also, you know, a wasted privilege if you don't seize it. So
Absolutely.
you got to get after it. I'll make this quick because I've told this story before on the podcast. Alice has heard it. But one time, I at this point in my life, I had several encounters with spirits, but one time, me and my friend Philip decided we were going to take acid and reach out to Lucifer, which is something we've done with other spirits, but not him directly. I guess I should preface this by saying that I personify Lucifer as something different from Satan, specifically Lucifer as the fallen angel, representative of pride. And I guess Satan has a lot of that same imagery, and there's a lot of crossover there. But in my mind, they're kind of two different things. Long story short, at some point, me and him had done things like this before, but the thing about spirit work for me is it's always been very intentional and premeditated. It's something I very made an effort to do, kind of thing. We were just talking about reaching out to Lucifer, and we hadn't realized we had done anything yet. But we started having a conversation, and our conversation got very, very introspective. And I ended up in a trance, like deep trance. And the next thing I knew, I was in hell. It was lava and fire and brimstone all underneath me. And where my friend was, but now further away, like way more distance, was Satan. Not Lucifer, but Satan. Tim Curry, legend, exactly the way you described Satan.
Love.
And he was looking dead ahead of him like a statue, and he was sitting in a throne. And he wasn't looking at me. I was kind of to the side of him. And he said, "Why are you here?" And it took me a minute to realize that he was talking to me, because he wasn't looking at me. He was just looking straight ahead. And I said, I don't know, because I had no fucking clue. And then he was like, what do you want? And I kind of realized at that point in my trance that I could make a deal and ask for something. But I realized there wasn't anything I really wanted that bad at that time. So we just kind of talked, and I don't remember everything we talked about. But then he asked me again, and he was getting impatient. He was like, what do you want? And I said, I guess I just want to know if you're proud of me. And I felt this rumbling, and I interpreted that as all of hell, like mocking me, like laughing at me. And at that point, he turned and looked at me, and he was not laughing. He was shooting daggers at me. And I remember the way he was looking really hurt. And the next thing I knew, I was back on my couch, and Philip was sitting upright, but eyes closed. And I was like slapping him, shaking him, and he would not get up. So I went and got my roommate, and we picked him up and put him against the wall, and probably held him against the wall for like 2 minutes before he like held his weight on his feet again. And he was really mad at me for pulling him out like that, but I didn't know what I just did, if he was like in trouble because of something I did, or I don't know. But anyway, that's my story. What's crazy is I still don't, that's the thing about these things, is that was a very vivid thing. I met the devil in the flesh the same way I meet anyone else, but I was also on acid, right? And it's like, I mean, is that a hallucination? Is that a spirit that I met? The answer is yes to both. And the answer is neither, I guess. It's somewhere in the middle. Oh my God, it's your familiar.
It is she.
Oh, what's her name?
Her name is Andromeda, but we call her Andy.
Andy. Aw, she heard the conversation. She got excited.
She did.
Anyway, I'm sorry for the rant.
No, it's an interesting story. And, there is a lot of unlocking that a lot of people do when they take acid, take mushrooms, take the drugs that open the doors. And I do that myself. I do a lot of work when I take mushrooms on myself and my thoughts, my emotions, work through them, think about them, ask myself those questions. What do you want? What do you need to let go of? What is bothering you? These are all things I think of mushrooms, especially as medicine that unlocks something in people and helps you work through trauma and grief and helps bring you joy and wonder back into your life, like that a child would have, because I'm sure you've experienced that when you're on a hallucinogenic drug, even weed, like even the smallest little things that have become, you don't even see them anymore. They become wondrous again. And I think having that eye for wonder and that eye for openness is something that everybody really should experience in their life. So that was a very, very interesting, probably scary experience.
Yeah, I think as far as I can tell, there's two like serious things that like crack the egg for a witch, that awaken the witch out of the woman or the boy. And it's like it can be trauma, and I think that's usually what it is. Some kind of event that happened early on, and it's this kind of cause something early, or psychedelics, which can be kind of self-induced trauma in a good way, where it's like, okay, let's address some things you're facing, and it's like, if you can overcome that, then that's self-mastery. And that's, I mean, everyone's a witch, they just have to wake up first. It's
Okay, Dana.
there's a book I really like. It's called Age of Myth, and there's one part in there where they compare magic to, it's like, you're a caterpillar and then you become a butterfly. And when you become a butterfly, you can't go back to squirming. You can't go back to crawling. It doesn't work that way anymore. You don't have that option. You have to fly.
And that can be said of living your authentic self. I've always identified as a witch. I haven't felt and lived that way until the last like 10 years of my life, because growing up in the South, in this Bible belt that we live in, that I live in, that's a very difficult and taboo subject. Just there's like, all kinds of stigma just to not be the norm in this area, which is the norm in this area is a Christian, or at least some kind of agnostic, which I am not. So, but living authentically, once you start doing it, it's impossible to go back to the old ways. And part of that, like one of the things that we want to do with Omenbringer is like really encourage the queer audience, ladies, trans people that normally would not be at a metal show because either they don't like the music or they're not comfortable there. So we want to make music that all kinds of people can identify with and all kinds of people can enjoy, not just your standard dude in a black t-shirt with a pentagram on it. We want all types of people to come and feel comfortable to wear their witchy clothes and be their sluttiest and their hottest and whatever it is that makes them feel authentic and happy. Come as that human being to our Omenbringer shows. So like that is a huge, very important thing to me, is to like feel like people know that that's important to us and that we want you there.
That's a good thing. Yeah, I feel comfortable being slutty at your shows, so I think it's working.
Hail Satan.
Hail
Very
Satan.
nice.
What do you think happens after we die?
So, I go through phases. I mostly think absolutely nothing. It's over. You're dead. The brain is the self, and you perceive everything around you, your entire life and everyone else's life, through your brain. And how you interpret the whole world is through your own eyes and your own perception, your own brain. But when you do things like take a really big dose of mushrooms or acid, you tap into this universal energy, I think, where you become aware that maybe there's more to it, and that maybe there is just this recycling. So I kind of think that now that when you die, like we know from science, I'm a believer in science. There are mystical things that I believe in that may or may not be true. They're true to me, but I'm not saying that they're ultimately true or universally true. But I do feel like that when you die, you're going to be recycled, and it's not the end of your life, because matter cannot be made and unmade, right? Energy cannot be unmade. So your energy goes somewhere when you die. It's recycled back into the earth. You come back as a tree, you come back as something else, so
Energy by definition is not something that can be destroyed.
There you go.
Is the basis behind that, and
that's the wording I was looking for.
It's because energy itself is not matter, so it's really hard for us to even grasp what it is.
Exactly. So it's like knowing that we do not know everything. My perception is there's no God. If there was a God, they're a piece of shit, because they don't do anything to help people and animals and all the things that are suffering, but that we all have energy, and we're all kind of connected to each other in so many ways, so many more ways than just physical ways. So I don't think I'm going to hell when I die, because I don't think that exists, but I would rather go to hell when I die than go to the Christian definition of heaven. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. It sounds like a hell to me.
Yeah. Well, none of my friends are going to be there, so fuck that. I don't want to go there.
Right. Something I've been really into lately is Zoroastrianism. And that's it's an ancient religion, like 2,000 years before Judaism, I believe. So very old. And it's a pretty classic story of like good and evil. Basically, you have a god that is all good and a god that is all evil, and they exist separate from each other. But then one day, the good god creates the physical world so that he can lure the dark one in and interact with it and convert it, like teach it to be good. So you have a war going on over consciousness of good and evil. And I think it's one of those things with a lot of religious texts where even if that is not literally true, it is true enough where it's like that is going on. A war is going on inside each individual over your heart. It's literally like in Bugs Bunny with the devil and the angel. That's how things work. It's or the Native American thing with the two wolves. It's like whichever one you feed.
And Christians like to like have this fallacy of like, well, if there's no God or no Christianity, what makes you be good? And it's like, no, like I think that we are born with a moral sense of like what's good and bad and what's wrong and what's kind, you know. And I sincerely hope, although there's no science behind it, that karma is real and that when you do evil things and you put bad, ugly energy out in the world, that you get it back. But I am constantly trying to put out the good and the kind. I would rather be remembered as kind than beautiful or smart or cool or whatever. You know, like if my legacy was that of kindness, then I feel like I achieved the ultimate goal, you know. But with Omenbringer, like I'm putting that out there, bearing my soul and putting my music out there that I write and compose and all of that for pure enjoyment. And you know, if it leaves a lasting legacy, that's wonderful. But I would hope that my lasting legacy would be that of kindness to others.
Yeah. Did you have like were you forced to go to church growing up? Was that a thing in your house?
Oh, yeah. I hated it. I never wanted to go. I was always like, do we have to go to church? Any excuse I had to get out of church. I was like, can we not go to church? Can we not go to church? And then I'd have to go to Sunday school after the church, which is more church after the church, which is terrible. And church, I grew up in like one of those big, like not arena, but like big, like church of not Church of Christ, almost Pentecostal type church that's like televised, and they got the stupid fucking choir and big giant pulpit and them playing moody piano music throughout the sermon crap, you know. And I never felt anything in the audience. There are all these people are up there with their hands in the air and singing and stuff and feeling it, and I just never believed any of that was real, you know, and stuff. Not really. The coolest thing about church when I started to read, I would be super bored and there's nothing there to do other than read your Bible. And so I'd turn to the back of the Bible for Revelations where all the crazy shit happens and read that because it was interesting and there were demons and monsters and crazy shit. But I was still bored to fucking tears.
Yeah. I
hated it.
I grew up with a religious cult too, so
I will say the only thing that the church gave me at an early age that I do still appreciate is music. And a lot of people never experience singing in a choir, but they maybe sing at church with other people. And raising your voice in song with a whole lot of people is a powerful thing and a beautiful thing. So I did grow appreciation for singing in church because of the hymns. So I'll say that.
That was fun too. That was my favorite part as well.
The music, yeah.
Yeah. Um, what's funny is I drank the Kool-Aid for a while. Like I was into it. I was a Jehovah's Witness growing up. Um,
No birthdays for you. No
yeah,
Halloween, no Christmas, no fun.
yeah. And I was also homeschooled, so I didn't know anybody. But
Oh, how hard.
the yeah, it is what it is. The what was I gonna say? The music and like I guess it for me it like things happened and I kind of woke up to a lot of things, but for a long time I was asleep. Probably till I was like 14, 15. Um, maybe a little bit younger. But what was I gonna say? Um, I remember my mom talking about the Holy Spirit and how you can feel it. And I remember that feeling. And now that I've done spirit work, I can say for a fact that they are wizards doing wizard shit and they just won't admit it. Like they're doing I was talking to my mom about how the Passover, like the memorial of Jesus' death, is a giant blood ritual. You're drinking blood and eating flesh. Like, dude, it doesn't get more giant blood ritual than that. How are you condoning magic? That's so what a double standard.
Jesus was a magician. He was constantly doing magic
Yeah, yeah,
to impress people, get them to come
yeah.
hear him speak.
um back to Satanism. I agree with you that Satanism is not about worshiping Satan. It's about self mastery and anti archon, like the tearing down of structure. No authority over me, and those are principles I can very much get behind. I got very into Crowley and Thelema, the Book of the Law, which rule number one is you're not supposed to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it. The you know, the simple one commandment, do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law. And there, man has the right to do what thou want, to eat when I want, to sleep when I want, to work when I want, and the right to kill anyone who would thwart those rights. And I can very much get behind that kind of principle. It's no like I was just talking about this last week on the podcast. No one has the authority to tell me, no one on this planet, what I can and cannot put in my body. Nobody. Who the fuck is anyone to tell me what I can't put in the ground and water? Is that not my God-given right? Like what? It's dirt and seeds. Like
I've
what do you?
often felt that I have more right to protect the earth from the molestation of the same people that try to dictate what I use from the earth with my body and how I do it.
Yeah.
And then you have these weird people, these weird Christians who think that this magical being God made the earth in 7 days, this beautiful place just for us with no evolution. Everything is grand design and perfectly designed down to every little, bug antenna. And yet, we don't need to take care of this earth. We don't need to be stewards to it. We don't need to ensure that it is lush and growing and glorify their name by taking good care of it. It's like all the time you go out in the country and all these rednecks that identify as Christian just throw trash out of their trucks and like don't give a shit. about this magical earth that this God made just for you. Like, what is their logic behind that?
Yeah. I think a lot of the problem, like, that is one thing I can say about growing up the way I did, is I've read the Bible. I know what it says better than a lot of Christians. And
Mostly crazy stuff.
mostly crazy shit.
Mhm.
But the thing is, the ancient Jews that wrote the Old Testament did not expect or want you to take any of these stories literally. They understood, ancient Israelites understood better than we do, that these were works of fiction, and they have lessons to them that you actually lose the lessons to if you think that shit actually happened.
Right. It's a
And
parable.
it's literally just a book of parables, like, to, like, hey, live a good life, but people want to live their life on it. It's like if you read Harry Potter and you're like, no, that literally fucking happened. That fucking happened. And it's like, no, we have to follow all the rules in this because Voldemort's gonna come back. And it's like, you're fucking crazy. You're fucking nuts. Like, that's how it, but they do it. They do it.
The suspension of disbelief is strong with the Christians. You really have to separate yourself from logic and science and things that you already believe, without, for to adhere to that religion. But I digress.
Yeah. I think
I will say, like, even though, as you mentioned earlier, do without wilt, and like, I can kill somebody if they wrong me, I would never condone that. Killing is badong, bad wrong. So I don't think you should do it. I don't think you should ever kill someone. But, I think if we try someone for child rape and murder and all the terrible things that they do, and they're found guilty by a jury, then yeah, we can put that piece of shit to death. But,
yeah. I think, yeah, you should never kill someone, but sometimes people run into your house and find themselves impaled with bullets, and that was a stupid decision they made.
Right.
It's like,
It wasn't
wow, that was
my
really dumb.
intent to kill.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that.
My intent to prevent the individual from making it any further toward my direction.
Yeah.
Sure. Hopefully the is
But-
what scares them away before you have to blow
But
them away.
on the point of, judicial intervention, because it's kind of a trip in its own right. If somebody is captured and brought to trial before you're able to kill them, you basically assign a couple of wizards to fight it out to decide his fate.
Yes, and we make mistakes because we are human.
And you hand it over to basically another set,
Right. And it's never going to be fair. Not everything is going to be fair or perfect or right, because we are not fair or perfect human beings, but we're doing our best, I guess. Hopefully you're doing your best. If you're not doing your best, maybe you should get off your ass and try your best to do something good with your life.
What's your prediction for like 21-23, like 100 years from now?
Oh, we're going to be in trouble.
Hmm.
A lot of stuff is going to be gone. If not, I don't know how long we're going to last. Like, people just don't understand the enormous domino effect that's going to happen when the ocean raises up another 1 or 2 degrees, and all these animals die because all of their food is gone and no longer available to them. And all of our food then dries up because their food is gone. And then the birds and all the animals, everything that feeds off of our ocean is now under duress. And all of our, like, cities and things that we have are going to just crumble away, or it's going to be too hot for us. We're going to lose our resources. So this is like a big reason why I personally have decided a long time ago that I'm never having children, because I do not want them to inherit all of these issues that we have created as a human race for them. We, unfortunately, like, in order for this not to happen, there's going to have to be something catastrophic, pandemic, natural disaster happen to get rid of a bunch of us in order for the earth to correct itself. But we've seen that it doesn't take long for the earth to correct itself. During the pandemic, there was all of this like rejuvenation. There was all of this like positive impact of people not traveling in their cars and using resources. And so it's possible that we can fix it, but we're so far down the line, and it would take such monumental change and such a serious amount of change that I just don't see it happening. And the people that have the resources to do it, the billionaires out there, the Steve Jobs, the, Bill Gates, the Elon Musks, the, Jeff Bezoses, they do not give a shit about doing anything with that wealth to make a lasting human impact. They care only about the self. The ego has become so inflated on these people that they choose not to end world hunger, even though they have the means, all this kind of stuff. But it would take a monumental paradigm shift for us to still be around and thriving in 100 years.
Yeah, I don't feel optimistic about it either.
But I'll be gone, so I don't care. I don't give a shit. I'm still going to be good while I'm here. I'm going to recycle. I'm going to do everything I can to be good.
Huh? It depends on what your definition of thriving is. I think if we trimmed out about 2/3, we'd probably be back to a state of thriving.
You know what it'll be? It'll be one guy who's figured out immortality, or girl or woman, and then it'll be a bunch of robots running the rest of the world, and that person can just go wherever they want. This is one person, and robots run everything else.
Sounds like it's gonna suck.
Yeah, sounds pretty awful to me too. Also, you said Bezos's earlier. I think the plural of Bezos is Bezai or Bezai.
Bezoa.
Bezoians.
Bezoian, yeah. Fuck that guy. I don't want to talk about him.
When was the last time you cried?
Yesterday.
Nice.
I was watching my favorite romantic movie with my favorite romantic partner.
Can you tell me what movie it was?
It is Immortal Beloved, which is a movie starring my favorite actor, Gary Oldman. And it is loosely based on a true story of Beethoven, who had bequeathed his estate to his immortal beloved, and everyone was shocked and was like, who is this woman? Beethoven was in love. Beethoven had a great love. Who is this woman? And Isabella Rossellini is also in the movie. It is a beautiful movie. I believe that Beethoven is the most amazing, perfect classical composer. His music is absolutely romantic, touching, beautiful, passionate. So if you haven't seen that movie, it's really cool. It's a good movie when you go to McKay's and it's $12 at McKay's. So I think my copy is from McKay's and it's like $12 or $14,
That's how you know.
That's how you know. It's a good movie. Watch it.
I will.
It's very beautiful. If you don't cry, let me know if you cry when you watch it.
I guess Gary Oldman's Beethoven. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to watch that.
I love him. He is my favorite. He is the most versatile actor in the world. I want to meet him. Gary, please come and have lunch.
Yeah, Gary's a long-term watcher of this show. I'm sure he'll see it.
One day when Omenbringer is very famous, I will get to meet Gary Oldman, and it will be a wonderful day. It'll be like the best day.
It'll happen. You'll manifest it.
I do that all the time.
Manifest it with sex magic. Gary.
Gary! I'm currently manifesting right now $4,000 for my bandmate Corey, who requested it specifically from me while I do my sex magic. He's like, can you do some magic for me? I need about $4,000 for some new gear that I've set my heart on. And I'm like, okay. But he'll have that in plenty of time, or not plenty of time. He'll have that in no time because we have been really blowing up lately and have had so many bands reach out to us to set up shows, and we just can't say yes to all of them, which is a wonderful place to be in. But we're working so hard to finish recording the full-length album that we just can't take on extra shows right now, and we need to starve our audience anyway a little bit, and because, like, you don't need to overplay your scene. So we're taking the advice of a close friend of mine. His name is Ryan. He's a photographer with the Relevator show, which is he's a really great live photographer. And he told me, Molly, I see all these bands and they immediately start touring, and that's crazy. You need to spend time in your hometown, and you need to win your hometown. And you're from Nashville. And if you can't win your hometown in Nashville, you're not going to make it, because this is Music City and this has tough critics, blah, blah, blah. So we're taking his advice, and it's true. And it's really, I mean, every show, the crowd gets bigger and bigger, and there's more people that come up to me and say, I just saw you guys online and I had to come see you. And it was so worth it. And I can't wait to bring more people to the next show. And that, like, A, it warms my heart, and B, makes me very proud, and C, makes me very excited for the future, because I genuinely think that what we're doing is unique, original, different, and yet our influences are classic rock and classic metal. So people have this, like, identifier, like they recognize, like, this, like, style and stuff, but it's so different and unique. So I know that I know what people want to see and want to hear, I think, and I'm tapping into it, and we're going all the way.
That's really cool. You explain, every time you've explained or talked about your band, it's very in alignment to what I think the presentation is. Sometimes I said authors. I write poetry and books, by the way, like fantasy novels, but artists can be blind to, like, what they think their image is versus what they're actually putting out, and that's just really cool. You seem like really self-aware about what you're doing, in alignment with how it's perceived.
Everything is done with intention.
Yeah, that's magic.
It is.
Magic is intention.
As it should be.
Oh, that's a fun question. What is magic?
Magic is a lot of things. It is a feeling, it is doing, it is believing, and truly real magic is believing in yourself. A lot of people have the fear. Quit it, Andy. The fear of failure probably is the number one thing that stops people from doing whatever it is that they want to do with their life. Oh, I'm never going to be good enough. It's, blah, blah, blah. But once you let go of the fear and you just start doing stuff because you enjoy it, it just feels good no matter what. So really, to me, it doesn't matter if we're famous or whatever. We're going to be famous. We're going to blow up. But it's more important to me to put stuff out there that I'm proud of and make this thing that I'm really excited about, because other people latch on to that. Like, people like authenticity, and when someone is genuine, and I genuinely believe in what we're doing, and the lyrics are about my life and my experiences and things I want and things I like and enjoy. So it's like people latch onto that because they want the same things, or because they just like seeing someone walking the walk and talking the talk kind of thing. So, Omenbringer is this multifaceted, like, it's my brainchild and my ideas, but there's all these people, my bandmates, the fans, that believe in it, and it wouldn't be coming true without all this, like, love and other people, like, wanting us to succeed and believing in what my ideas and extrapolating on them and turning them into their own thing. Like, all of that is what is making us successful and making people feel like it's genuine when they come to our shows, and that I'm self-aware, and that I'm, putting out there the genuine article kind of thing.
Yeah. There's an Alex Gray painting I really like. Alex Gray?
Mm-hmm.
Where he's painting the guy painting, and the guy is at an easel, yeah, an easel. And he's like putting his pin on it, and there's a god thing, like a face behind him, shooting a laser into the back of his head as he's writing it. Where do you think art comes from?
Your butt.
Specifically mine?
Your butt. Yes.
Wow. That I didn't I mean, I knew it was a magical place, but I didn't know it was that magical.
Good
Well, that's
art comes from the heart.
Oh, wow. And my butt. It comes from the heart and butt.
And your butt's heart.
Yeah. I have a grotesque mental image of like a beating heart.
Inside your butt.
Yeah. But I guess grotesque is only perspective based. Yeah.
Some people like that, maybe. Some people would
Heavy
love
burden
to see that.
What do you say?
I said that's a heavy burden to bear, Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the light just came on. Do you guys see that? That was crazy.
I just see it.
That was the magic and the art that comes from my butt.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. Alice, My Coven comes out tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that. And then February 10th, you can catch Molly and Spooky and
Corey
and
and
Corey
Ellie and Joey.
and Joey at East Room, February 10th. Don't be late. Be late for a very important date. I'll know because I'll be there. And if you are, I'll judge you. And you'll judge yourself because you'll be missing out.
We always do.
Molly, thank you again so much for being here. This has been great.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
See you, Alice.